Rob, James Harden, who is supposed to be their second guy, right? If not the first. I mean, before the season, there are some people that might have said James Harden was better than Joel Embiid. You know, Embiid obviously can do some things as a big, but Harden has been an absolute bona fide superstar for the past decade. And he's supposed to at least be the second guy, if not number one or number 1B. All right. But in this series, Rob, he hasn't played very well. He's shooting 34% from the floor. He's averaging, his numbers look good, 18 points and 10 assists. He get numbers. But last night he had 5 turnovers. He had 14 points on 3 of 9 shooting. And what I want to throw out to you, Rob, because let's just keep it real. It's finals or bust. I could say championship or bust, but I think if the Sixers just get to the finals, that's a step. That's a heck of a step. But it's finals or bust for the Sixers. Not to mention James Harden wants a $250 million contract extension after this season. So, Rob, is this the James Harden? Let me put it this way. Can Philadelphia get to the finals with this version of James Harden?
Not this version. The old version, I think, is what we're looking for, but not this one. I don't know, Chris. It's very weird. And we've seen it now you saw it in Brooklyn. You pointed it out early, okay? You just didn't like the way he was playing. You were like, the numbers are, for a lot of everyday players, they would love to have those numbers, but they're not James Harden numbers, plain and simple. And as time has gone on, remember, he had the 5-game outburst, Chris, to start his tenure in Philadelphia, and ranting and raving. People were like, oh my goodness, what do they have? They have a dynamic. They might have the best. You remember the story was they're the best duo since Shaq and Kobe after 5 games. I mean, pump the brakes. It was 5 games, Chris.
And then Kyrie came to town.
Yes, and then it hadn't been the same since. But no, he has to be more dynamic, James Harden. And I don't know. I mean, I think they're doing it, and you give them credit. They're at home. Toronto, they had a good season, Chris. I'm not trying to bash Toronto. But if you ask me going into this series who should win, I'm picking Philadelphia.
Right. I picked them with some hesitation because I thought, Toronto has had a great season, as you said, and Philly, didn't look great down the stretch. I know they won some games, but Harden wasn't. Rob, Harden, this is not just a blip. This is a trend. In April, check this out. In 5 games in April, Rob, James Harden averaged 16 points on 36% shooting. 27% from 3. Now, he was dropping dimes, 13 assists a game. But 36% shooting. So here's where I'm at on Harden, Rob. He hasn't been the same since the hamstring injury.
What happened in the first minute of the playoffs last year against Milwaukee? What was it, 38 seconds? It was less than a minute.
Right, yeah, it was early. And he hasn't been the same since. He just hasn't. And he hasn't looked as explosive. He isn't able to blow by. And he never was Michael Jordan athletically. But he could get by a guy. He had a quick first step. He could finish. And I get it. They've changed the way they're calling the fouls, and that's hurt him a bit.
Especially
but still,
on,
he also could finish. Right. He also could finish. And he doesn't seem to have the same finishing ability or the same quick first step, Chris, to beat somebody.
Let me give you some numbers, okay? In the 21 games with the Sixers after the deadline, right? He's averaged 21 points, 10.5 assists, and 7.1 rebounds. That sounds good, right? But he shot 40.2% from the floor and 32.6% from deep. So the shooting is off. The numbers look good, 21, 10.5, and 7. You take that. Most guys would.
Well, and Rob, he's 32 years old. He'll be 33 in August. This is his 13th season. A lot of people, would say, oh, he's got plenty of time. Because you see LeBron and you see Chris Paul and all these other guys. But 13 full seasons, that's a career. I mean, if James Harden is indeed falling off, Rob, he's already had a full career.
No, I get that. And, Chris, he lives a different lifestyle. I don't know.
There you go.
I don't know his personal life, but from the outside, looking in, he
puts it out there on social media.
Right, that's what I'm saying. From the stuff that I'm just looking at, he's enjoying life and living a young man's life who's single and free and got a pocket full of money. I'm not mad at him, but that catches up to you at some point.
Right.
Trust me. I was doing it on a sports writer's budget. You know what I'm saying?
Allen Iverson lived a life like that and played, 14 years. This was about the length of his career. And we know he could have continued on as a role player off the bench had he wanted to. He didn't want to, and I'm fine with that. But this is about the time he started losing it. And granted, he was smaller than Harden. But still, Rob, James Harden's played 942 career games. Guess how many Isaiah Thomas played in his career?
900.
979.
Wow.
Guess how many Larry Bird played?
Larry Bird played, I'm going to say less, 879.
897. You were close. So Harden's already had a longer career than Larry Bird. Magic, now we understand Magic's was cut short by the HIV, but Magic played 906 games, Rob. My point is that James Harden has had a full career. Allen Iverson, Rob, 914 games. James Harden's had a full career. And I'm not saying definitively he just slowed down and he'll never get it back. But if that's the case, and that's looking like it right now, because this has been a year of very good basketball, but not James Harden's standards. If indeed he's losing it, this has happened to some of the other all-time greats too. And Rob, here's what I'll say about Harden. Philly fans, if you're listening, if you're out there, all hope is not lost. James Harden is skilled enough, great enough to adapt. You've heard me say he is one of the few players in NBA history who is both an all-time scorer and an all-time playmaker. If I'm Philadelphia, I got Joel Embiid to give me 30. I got Tyrese Maxey to give me, on average, between 18 and 22. I got Tobias Harris to give me 18-ish. I can live, I believe. You might disagree. I believe.
I totally disagree that James Harden ain't winning without the offensive firepower.
You didn't hear what I even said.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I believe that James Harden, as a playmaker, giving Philly 20 and 12 efficiently, that's the key. Not 20 and 12 on 40% shooting, but 20 and 12 on close to 50% shooting. Maybe he can't do that. He's never come close to that, but he's always shot a lot more. But if he can give me 20 and 12 on 47, 48% shooting and be a great playmaker, don't dribble the air out of the ball before you make a move. Be more decisive. Be quicker with the ball. Get it moving. Be decisive with your moves. You made up your mind. You're driving and throwing the lob, then do it. You made up your mind, you're driving and kicking it out, then do it. Don't dribble for 10 seconds and have everybody standing around watching you before you make your move. If he does that, and he can, then I think Philly could be an elite team this year, Rob, and threaten in the East.
I just think you need him to be James Harden in order to win when you match up against some of the other duos and other players. And the other players, Chris, I hear you, they're lowercase. They're not real number twos. They're lowercase. And I think that's where, I mean, you're hoping Tobias Harris and those guys deliver what you're asking for, but you need a James Harden. You need him to be the player he was or closer to the player he was in Houston, I believe. I think that, yeah, on their best nights, Chris, Maxey and Tobias Harris, yeah, on their best nights, but they don't have best nights every night, and that's the problem.
See, I think he can. I'm not saying they're going to be better than Harden. I'm saying they might, or at least Maxey might score more than Harden. Harden can be the number 2, averaging 20 and 12. You know, I mean, Magic's numbers were always 19 and 11, I believe, for his career. Like 19 and 12, something like that. I mean, that's my point is I think they have enough scoring that if Harden can be efficient.
Okay.
But, you know, because remember, Rob, when he went to Brooklyn and we were raving about him, he wasn't, he was giving you 24 a night. But he wasn't the James Harden of Houston, but he was such a great playmaker. And Rob, last year, guess what he shot in Brooklyn? 47%. That James, he was 24 and 11 on 47% shooting. I could live with that, Rob.
Oh, yeah.
I could live with that. So maybe move it up a little, 23, 24. But he's not even doing that now. And it's taking him, you know, all he can muster on bad shooting to get his 21 points in Philly. So